I recently bought this paper to use specifically for my alcohol markers. I'm not a marker artist, but I still like to use mine occasionally. This is a pad of 20 papers from Sakura. It's called Manga Papers. It's Bristol paper and 250 GSM. And it says on the back that you can use this with, for example, ink, felt tip pen, watercolor gouache, pencil and charcoal. It doesn't say alcohol markers on the back of this one, but in the listing from the shop where I bought this, it did say that you can use it with markers, so that's why I bought it. I have used it already, so I've used 3 sheets of this, and this is the first illustration I made. So this is with ink for outlines and then alcohol marker to fill in. This is a reference I took myself while I was in Germany, and I'm quite happy with the results, even though the background is perhaps a bit plain. There was a lot of different trees behind, so I simplified a bit. Anyway, it was quite easy to color on this paper. There was some streakiness, but it was fairly easy to get a more even layer. The color laid down beautifully. It did stay within the line, so I didn't notice any bleeding outside of the area you had colored. And since this paper is quite thick, so it's a lot thicker than regular marker paper, there is some ghosting on the back side, but it didn't bleed through and stain the next page. I did make this one and the second alcohol marker illustration while still on the pad. So I'm quite happy with this one. This is my second illustration. You can see up here that it's a bit difficult to get an even layer of color, but then also I'm not a marker artist, so it could also be partly due to lack of technique. But it was still quite fun to use. It's easy to color on, and I would recommend this. Since it did say that you can use it with watercolor, I did decide to try that as well, though I did expect that it would not turn out, and this is the result. So it's not bad, but it's very, very pale. And the reason why it's so pale is because the surface of the paper is quite shiny, and that meant that it's not soaking up the watercolor, and instead you get a very, very thin wash of watercolor, and that's why all the colors turn out so pale. The paper did hold up fairly well to all the water. You can see that it's quite smooth, though the paper itself is now a semicircle, basically. But despite that, it did hold up quite well, so I think ink would work on this paper, but I would not recommend it for watercolor. And still, I don't think an ink illustration would be the best choice, but if you do like a flat wash over something, that could still probably work. So just to give you an idea of how pale this is in comparison, this is color I mixed myself, but I have mixed this one before, so let me just show you what it looks like on watercolor paper. So this is my watercolor sketchbook. This is 300 GSM watercolor paper. I have reviewed this book and I'm not too pleased with it, but it's still a lot better for watercolor than this paper. So here you can see this is the same color, and you can see this one is a lot paler, and I probably layered this one more than I did this one. So it was really difficult to get any dark values on this paper because watercolor is so transparent, and it was difficult to get a lot of pigment down at once. You would need to layer a lot of times to get dark values. So I sort of gave up. I only wanted to try this paper with watercolor, and I didn't want to waste the paper, so I decided to make a full illustration instead of just making some swatches on it. I did also have some problems with smudging color on my paper, and I never have this issue, so it's probably because the paper isn't as absorbent as other paper, so then it was easier to just accidentally move the pigment. So this is just a very quick review, but my general impression of this paper is that it is very good to draw on. I started out with pencil drawings, and it was very easy to draw on, it was very easy to erase on, it was very easy to use ink on. I did like it for alcohol markers, as I said, and since it is so thick, you don't have to worry about it bleeding through to the next page. But if you are concerned, you can put something behind the page you're working on, or just remove them from the pad before you work on them. I would not, however, recommend it for watercolor. I'm a bit unsure about ink, because you might have a similar issue with ink as you do with watercolor. And also, as we saw, the paper does warp quite a bit if you use a wet medium on it. So I would say that this is best for alcohol markers and dry mediums, but it is a very nice paper and I do like it, and I will probably buy it again actually. So yeah, thumbs up for me, but do not use it for watercolor. If you have used this paper or any other paper from Sakura, feel free to leave your experience in the comments. I hope you found this useful, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye!